Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton, and I want to thank you all for tuning in this Monday to Lions Talk Live. What do you know? We got a playoff race and a division race unfolding before our very eyes. And I'm sure if you've been a Lions fan for any kind of length of time, it's just exciting to see this. I mean, yeah, I think we all get if the Vikings would have lost and, hey, we had a 3-game lead in the division or whatever, hey, maybe we start feeling more secure with things. But to me, as a coach, I kind of like the fact that they're sticking around. I kind of like the fact that, you know what, our team's going to have to be a little bit more focused. Our coach is going to have to be a little bit more aware of things, keep evolving, keep things, progressing forward just to keep the Vikings at bay. But before we really get into all that and the rest of the content today, as you guys all know, this isn't what I do for a living. I mean, I do it for fun. I enjoy it. But I am also a realtor. If you haven't yet thought about perhaps purchasing a property or selling property and haven't yet thought about talking to a realtor, maybe consider giving me a call or a text, 269-998-2384. See if I can help you out with whatever your real estate needs may be. Listing a property, like I said, going to buy a property. Even if you own businesses and looking for commercial properties, I do that as well. 269-998-2384. Now, sorry, with that out of the way, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. Really like to see if we can get to 4,300 by kickoff this Sunday. And with your help, we can make that happen. So if you're enjoying the video, don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up button. Now, with all that being said, I see that, the chat is moving. Let me see if I can get to the top here and start going through it with you guys. All right, what do we got? Bergs, hey, you were on pretty early looking at the timestamp on that thing. So good morning to you, and Lions Faithful, morning to you too as well. Yes, the Dew crew is here, and it's a real thing. Robert, greetings and salutations to all and to you, Robert. Hopefully you're having a great one. Robert, how about those Rams destroyed the Seahawks? Yeah, and I know some of the commentators have talked about it where, they've all kind of noted that NFC teams just have a hard time with Baltimore just because you get such limited reps during the regular season and, in the postseason as well, it'd be to really get kind of acquainted with what you're going to have to do differently from a schematic standpoint versus Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is great, and he is evolving more and more as a quarterback. He's no longer just the guy that they asked to try to basically be a pseudo running back who can throw the ball. Now he's a quarterback that throws the ball who can run, and that's making it hard on people. And we shouldn't just say that it's Lamar Jackson because that'd be a disservice to the rest of that Baltimore team. They've got some parts, they've got some weapons, and that defense is playing tough. So, Robert, to your point, yeah, Ravens did the Lions a solid. They knocked them back, and now you look at that NFC West between, say, the Seahawks, the 49ers, etc. They're going to beat each other up, I think, a little bit, and at the end of the day, that helps Detroit. All right, Lions fan number one, greetings and salutations all. I really was hoping Philly and Minnie would drop. Looks like we're going to need to keep the Vikings at bay a bit longer. Yeah, and I 100% agree. Lions are currently a game and a half over the Vikings. Obviously, we all know the Lions are going to play them 2 out of 3 weeks to end the regular season. So this thing could go down to the wire in essence. I do think probably Minnesota is going to drop a few games here and there. They do have some games coming up that I believe they will not win. The thing that I really thought hurt Atlanta was the fact that they're on their backup quarterback. But then again, Minnesota was on the backup to the backup. In fact, the guy who only had about 3 practices before facing Atlanta. So is what it is. But like I was saying earlier, I think it's a good thing ultimately. I don't want Minnesota to catch us, but I will say that the longer they can stay relevant, it just keeps everybody in our locker room a little bit more focused. And you could say, hey, Dan, they're going to be focused anyways because we're pushing for the number 1, 2, or 3 seed. And that is true. But I can also say it's just another layer to keep players and coaching staff on their toes, keep everybody crisp and sharp. So let's see where everything shakes out. Phil, greetings and salutations, Duke Group. Good morning to you, and greetings to you too as well. Virgil, good morning, Coach Dan. Ravens look legit to me. We need to win this week big time to keep up with Philly and ahead of the Vikings. I would agree. I mean, I get Phillies on the bye this week. I'm not sure on the Vikings. Somebody would have to remind me with that. But either way, yeah, the Lions are going to have to. I mean, that's part of being in first place, right? You have to keep people at bay. You have to keep the other teams off you. And Brad Holmes came out, excuse me, Dan Campbell came out and said, hey, you don't have to come hunting for us. You want to come find us, we'll be on your front porch waiting for you. So that's what's really the mentality this team's going to have to have. Chargers are in no way, shape, or form going to be a gimme game. You're going to have to go out there and earn it. The Lions do have some severe advantages going in. One, the Chargers are going to play tonight, so they're going to have one less day to rest and recuperate. Two, though, they're playing in New York tonight, and assuming that game's going to get over around midnight Eastern Standard Time, somewhere in that range, 11 p.m. to midnight. That also means they're probably not back to the planes and on the planes taking off, landing in LA until basically, I don't know, I'm doing the math in my head, so don't hold me to it. And I don't know exactly how long the flight is. I'm going to say 4-ish hours, maybe 5. They're not going to be landing in LA until Tuesday morning somewhere, I don't know, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock their time. I mean, somewhere in that range. So Tuesday is almost a wash for them. I mean, you're not really going to have a whole lot going on because guys got to go home, get rest. Maybe they come in for a brief film study just because they are on a compressed week. But I'm going to say, just to get them right, it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday before really things kind of start returning to normal just from jet lag and all that other stuff. Now, with all that being said, it don't mean jack. You come out and lay an egg against the Chargers, they're going to pound you. But I do think, hey, the Lions, we can say this. They're going to have the bye week to prepare for this, rest, get healthy, yada, yada. They've got every advantage going to them, really, other than the fact that they're not playing at home. Other than that, this is as set up for Detroit to win as possible. You don't win here, that'd be a little bit of an eyebrow raise. See what happens, though. Phil, what do you got? The Dobbs kid looked really good for the Vikings. Yeah, I get he started off a little shaky. But you know what? He did what he needed to do. And to give full credit to him, even though I wanted Minnesota to lose, he really probably didn't know much of the playbook and play calls. And that's got to be a compliment to him and the coaching staff, what they were able to get done. I mean, that was no small feat that they pulled off. And kudos to him. Phil, who says the NFC North is garbage? I would say this. The Bears obviously are struggling, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Green Bay, man, I mean, they got to win for sure, and they're probably going to win a few more, I would say. Hopefully not against Detroit, but I will say this. They've got to be thinking about what they're going to be doing in next year's draft and free agency. I don't think they're incredibly far off, but they definitely have some parts that need to be addressed with that team. In Minnesota, yeah, they're going to probably, who knows, maybe Dobbs comes out and does something great the rest of the year. Maybe they say, hey, this is our guy going forward. But at least the top 2 teams in the NFC North are looking pretty good. And maybe Green Bay can firm up a little bit. George, what do you got? Greetings and salutations. Coach Dan, what's the biggest factor for us to win Sunday? I'm going to say this. You got to put Herbert in the ground. You cannot let him go off. He's had an okay season. I don't want it called elite. I wouldn't call it bad. He's been okay. But I'm going to say, you get in trouble when you let guys have 5-10 Mississippis in the backfield with no pressure on them. So Aaron Glenn, I'm going to say this: I don't care if this kid runs for some yards on us. He's not an uber elite, a mobile quarterback, but you got to put hits on him. He's got some nice weapons to play with offensively. Defensively, I think we can do a lot to him. There's no Max Crosby, person in this situation, or elite edge rusher for them, unless I'm, not thinking of somebody. So apologies if I'm missing it. But I will say this: you give that kid time, he can carve up a defense. And our defense, while not bad, does not do well since we play so much zone this year. The more time you give a quarterback, the more he's going to pick us apart. All right, let's see. Stephanie, what do you got? Good morning, all. Go Lions. Good morning to you, too. Phil, healthy players and beat up the Chargers. Yeah, and I'll be watching the game tonight just to, really do kind of a deep dive in their formations, offensively, defensively, tendencies, maybe even try to pick up a few play calls. I get that since I'm Michigan saying that's probably a no-go, but I'll also say this is why the NFL uses the headphone communications, so you don't really have to worry about anybody picking up your signs. If you're old enough to remember before they did that, usually you would have 3 people on the sideline giving the signals. One person had the legit calls for that series or drive, and then they would switch at every drive. But what I will say is this: it would be interesting to see what you can pick up and ascertain. I don't want them to get hurt or injured. I don't wish that upon anybody. But, if a couple guys get a little beat up where they're not able to go the next week, so be it. I'll take it. Suzanne, what do you got? Since Goff didn't get extended over the bye, what does that say, Dan, if anything? Probably not much. I got to imagine. So what we can say is with Brad Holmes, I'm not entirely surprised that he didn't do it over the bye, or at least no announcement as of yet about an extension. I really do think Goff has played well this year. I don't think he's playing as elite as he did a year ago. So I'm not trying to start any kind of clickbait or whatever rumors, but I do believe Brad Holmes wants to get a better sense throughout the full season where he's at with this quarterback before he decides, hey, 5 years, 4 years, etc. on the contract. I'm going to guess that's probably ultimately what it comes down to. Goff continues to play at the rate he is. They're probably looking at about a 4-year deal, right around there. The dollars I'm not going to get into because I'll leave that to them. If he gets back to playing as elite as he was last year, then maybe they do consider a 5th-year contract where they can maybe buy out if need be after 3 years or something like that. 80% of the contract guaranteed, maybe 70%, something along those lines. All right. Franz, what do you got? Good morning, all from Germany. Hey, good morning. I do remember you saying, are you on vacation there or do you live there? I guess let me know. Doug Laporte, greetings and salutations from Boston. Man, we're getting people from all over the place here. Good morning and greetings to you too. Phil from Traverse City, great place, man. Yeah, you're very fortunate. That's a nice area, man. Garland, Houston, Texas here. Good morning, all. Yeah, Phil, I knew what you meant, man. Yeah, I got you. Ryan, so this could be a wild scenario. The Lions could play the Vikings 3 out of 4 weeks if they meet in the first round of the playoffs. I'm not sure that has ever happened before in the NFL. Yeah, to be honest, I can't think of it happening. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I'm just not aware of it. I can say I know a number of times, just in the time I've been an NFL fan or a Lions fan, I've seen teams play the last game of the regular season and then play in the playoffs. I remember that happening a lot with Detroit in the 90s. And it seemed like every year it came down to us playing in Green Bay and then playing them again in the playoffs the following week. So, but to your point, 3 out of 4 weeks, yeah, I can't think of that happening before. We'll see what happens. I do question if Minnesota will be able to hold on to that last spot, but they did a big thing towards moving towards that goal or objective yesterday with getting that win. So kudos to them. And like I said, we'll see how the season shakes out. Phil, it should be 3 wins, but that is a tough row I'm assuming you mean go. So yeah, Phil, you're right, man. But you never know, man. The Vikings, they do have some players on D. They are playing better more and more. They got some weapons on offense. It's really going to come down to just quarterback play for them. Dobbs did for everything he was thrust into, and with as little reps, understanding the terminology. And I think they were saying when I was watching Red Zone yesterday. By the way, I've never did that thing until maybe a couple weeks ago. But I love that thing now. If I'm not watching Lions, I'm watching that. It's awesome to keep up with everything. But anyways, I give them a lot of props. 5 teams in a calendar year. That's a lot of jargon to remember, let alone a lot of routes, nuances. That's tough on a quarterback. All right, David, what do you got? Good morning, Lions family. Good morning to you too, man. Hopefully you're having a great one. T-Mac, dang those Cowboys. I thought they really had a chance going down there in the end, but, they kept shooting themselves in the foot. So you can only blame yourselves at the end of the day. But it was a good game. Just didn't get it done. T-Mac, I got you, man. Phil, pick up the green screen, Dan. Well, if you mean the green halo behind me, I got that. I'll probably look into getting an actual green screen. I don't know, maybe over Thanksgiving. Watch the Lions early. I got to stay around here to go to my family's Thanksgiving. The GF and her kids this year, they're making the trek up to her brother's in Midlands. So they're going to go up there. So I'll have some time after the game and when I get back from my ma's to probably mess with stuff like that. But between everything else right now, just not the highest priority. But I'm going to put it on the to-do list. I'm on it, Phil. I'm on it, Phil. All right, Ed, what do you got? Mr. Ed, good. I actually get that reference. I get a lot of people probably don't nowadays, but I do. Good morning, Lions fans from Florida. The NFC North just got better, except for Green Bay. They are who we thought they are, and the Cowboys are so scary either way. Yeah, so I would just say this. I mean, the North's looking better because Minnesota obviously has won, 3 or 4 in a row now. They're looking better. They're going to have, I want to say the next couple games, next 2 or 3, look like they're, if they go 2-1 in there, that'd be impressive to me. I'm probably thinking they have a more higher likelihood of going 1-2 in those next 3. And then obviously setting up the 2 games in 3 weeks with Detroit, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not writing them off. I said in the preseason, I thought Philly and Green Bay could give us some troubles. I'm starting to think that Chicago, if Fields gets healthy, could give us some problems as well. But, that's also the NFL. You guys see it all the time where a team that everybody thinks has no shot against somebody ends up sticking around or even winning. You just look at Arizona. Everybody thought, man, they might go 0 whatever this year. But they've actually played fairly competitive in a lot of games. Not all games, but they're not horrible. What do you got, Phil? T30? Time change. Okay. Time change. Yeah. The halo does continue. Exactly. Got to advertise and try to get sponsorship right from Mountain Dew. Brother Ken, good morning, fam. Good morning to you too, man. Hopefully it's not too cold for you out there in Denver. So hopefully it's a good one for you, man. Michael, Lions going to worry about Lions. Nobody else. I 100% agree with that. I had some buddies of mine, messaging me yesterday saying, hey, man, this Sunday, even the Lions lost on it. That's their luck because, Minnesota won, Dallas lost, etc. And I'm a believer, maybe it's the coach in me or whatever you want to say, but I just don't. You control your own fate. I wanted Philly to lose because we can't control their fate. So to get the number 1 seed, we went out, we take care of business. We're the number 2 seed. We need help to get Philly to drop down so we can become the number 1 seed. As far as Minnesota, Dallas, whoever else, we just win. We take care of our business. I'm just not a fan of the mindset that we need other people to help us out. I don't like that, man. It may happen at times where you need somebody to do something, but like you're saying, Michael, man, just handle our business and we'll be okay. Live with where things go from there. Anthony, what do you got? Greetings all. Good morning. Good morning to you. Hopefully you're having a due one. Brother Ken, Dan, do we have you seen Joshua Dobbs of the Vikings? Dude is no joke. Yeah, I agree. And that's what I've been saying this morning, man, is that for his situation, what he got thrust into and not knowing Jack, dude went out there and he played well. And you give him a lot of credit. And I do almost kind of question the reasoning why behind Arizona trading him, because if you go back and watch him, which I didn't watch, but a little bit here and there, he played well there. So maybe they're not ready to move off Kyler Murray. I don't know. I kind of had the impression they might be. So why not keep Dobbs? But either way, be happy for the guy. I get it's a division rival team, but what he did yesterday was damn impressive. All right, what do we got? Don, good morning to you too. Greetings and salutations to you as well. Trey, good morning, Dan. I hate to say it, but the Vikings are a tricky team right now. Lions have to be on point when they play them. I agree, man. I wouldn't be overlooking them by a long shot. And let's now think about this. Kirk Cousins is a statue who could throw. Dobbs is showing he can throw, and dude's got some escapability. He might not be Michael Vick, but the dude can break a pocket and pick you up some yards. And as we all probably know, unfortunately, that is something the Lions have struggled with in recent years. It'll be interesting to see when we get to that point what Aaron Glenn does against him. I pray it's not just, you want to use that cone formation on him sometimes, great. But I just hope they don't do it an entire game like they have with some of the other quarterbacks they've faced that can escape the pocket. T-Mac, I think the Dew Halo should stay. It's part of the Dew crew flavor. Yeah, I would say that. That's a point, man. Yeah, I like I said, man, it's like Barry Gorey's Last Dragon. Everybody's got their own light and color. Well, you can probably figure out why mine's green, right? Phil, Vikings have some comments on Magic. Yeah, and sometimes teams just do, man. You think of like last year, how they pulled off those wins. I can remember a couple years where the Lions, it just seemed like every win was a comeback win. Sometimes you just kind of get in that groove. So I'll say this. I think they're only going to win 1 out of their next 3. If they win 2 out of the next 3, they're really sticking with us. If they go 3-0, then you know what? This thing is going to come down to probably the last game of the regular season. See what shakes out. Brother Ken, what do you got? Aaron Glenn will have to bring his A game because Dobbs just has got that dog in him. Yeah, I agree. He's going to be, the more he gets confident too and familiar with their offense, and plus if they get some weapons back for them, yeah, this thing could come down to the last game. And hey, great way to have it go, right? I mean, you can get lethargic and fat in a season when people lose focus or purpose to have to play in games. So we'll see what shakes. All right, Phil Dobbs was with the team just a few days, yeah, and I know they've had him geared for the emergency quarterback. He wasn't getting first team reps. So really, with that being said, this week he's probably getting all the first team reps. He should get better. We'll see what happens. Yeah, but let's worry about Detroit. I mean, give that guy credit, give Minnesota credit, but it is what it is. All right, Lauren, good morning to you too. Key, Dobbs looked good for Minnesota. He did, 100%, no doubt there. Jim, top of the morning. Do you think Donovan Peoples-Jones gets any snaps this Sunday? I do think he will. And the big help for him is that they had the bye week. With the trade deadline and everything on Tuesday, it'd be my guess he got here no later than Thursday. They probably asked him to come in. I get it's tough because you're on bye, but he wasn't expecting the bye. So they probably had him come in, at least do a couple days of film study, things like that, to try to help speed up his familiarity with things. We'll see, though, but I'm anticipating he'll get snaps, yes. Anthony, Ravens did the same to the Seahawks as they did us. Yeah, they did. They whooped, and right now they look like a matchup problem for a lot of teams, especially NFC teams that just don't get to see that setup very often. So if you ever watch high school football, teams that run the triple wish, if you haven't seen it before, it's a pain. And it's kind of like what the Ravens are right now. But once a team gets some leverage on them, figures out a few things that are successful, you'll see everybody start copying it, mimicking it, stuff like that. So, but somebody's got to come up with it. So, Brother Ken, please remind Lions fans that Brad Holmes is building the Lions for a future dynasty, not a one-year trick pony. I agree with that. And I think he kind of really showed that with this year's draft and other drafts too, but really specifically this year's draft, and the fact that we didn't go get anything at the trade deadline. Look at what they did this year, and I've talked about it before. There's not a position on the field outside of special teams, punter, and kicker that the Lions didn't address in this past draft. You got a quarterback, running back, tight end, receivers, I guess you could say with the free agency guys. And then you got the offensive line, you got defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, safety. I mean, and I got to imagine they're going to keep doing that. So one, from a cost standpoint, you constantly have younger guys on the team that you can kind of lean on while affording to try to retain some of your older players. The other part is you have growth and development. You don't overstock one position. You're constantly trying to hit with some of these picks, which give Brad Holmes and the scouting department a ton of credit. Just about everybody they've drafted, for the most part, in 3 years has worked out. Not everybody, but most of them. This year, especially this year's draft class, I mean, it appears to be off the chart. I get we all want Broderick Martin to become the second coming of Ndamukong Suh or Richard Dent or something, but he's the limited snaps we've seen, he's looked decent. Scoresdale's looked decent. There's nobody you can really look at this point and go, yeah, that dude's a dud. So I give him all the credit in the world for what they're trying to build. All right, Anthony, I agree, brother Ken. Yeah, me too, man. David, the clouds are aligning for us to win this year. They are. They are definitely. And Minnesota, I think, is going to do everything they can to make it more interesting, but good for them. Build that up. Make those two games against Minnesota last at the end of the year more or less playoff games. Let the guys and the coaches get used to that type of feeling, anxiety, anticipation. So when we actually get to the playoffs, it's not brand new. You've more or less had two playoff games before your playoff game. So it just makes everything a little bit more comfortable. If you haven't gone through that before, and now all of a sudden you've got to do it with your backs on the wall, knowing, if you don't win, the season's over, you're going home. It just makes it a whole lot tougher. So again, as a coach, I'm all in favor of those games being meaningful at the end of the year, just so you keep everybody a little bit sharper. All right, Anthony, pressure on Herbert. Yeah, hit him once, hit him twice, hit him off, and just don't have Jack Campbell hit him below the knees. But you got to go after him, and I know Aaron Glenn's probably not going to do it, but if it's me, man, I'm Blitzberg on the kid. I'm probably putting 8-7 guys on the line, at least 7, and I'm going to make that offensive line constantly guess who's coming and who's dropping. But I would probably do that on every play anyway, so that's probably why I'm not a DC in the NFL. Anyways, JP, how many players come back from injury this game? That's a good question, man. And we probably really won't have a clue until Wednesday, but Pascal is going to be back and probably fully healthy. Probably the majority of the offensive line. I mean, if they're not back by now, I don't know what they're waiting on. That it's a more serious injury than we anticipated. I will say this with Big V. I think his days of starting, unless there are other injuries to players, are probably done in Detroit. Was it 3 out of the last 4 games? He's been used mostly as a backup. I think it's probably his. Boy, I hate saying this. His back is the reason. I just don't think he can physically do it anymore. And because of that, when you watch the film, his ability to block, especially in the running game, has diminished significantly. And that shouldn't be the case. With his ability traits, it should actually be the running game that's easier on him. But that tells me when he's generating contact and blocking, you watch how he has to move his body a little bit differently than in the past. That back's probably giving him more issues than probably any of us realize. And kudos for the dude for not going on the IR, saying, hey, I'm just going to have to take those paychecks and, I can't play the rest of the year. He wants to be a part of this team, would be my anticipation. It's just because of back injuries are no joke, especially for 300-plus pound dudes like him or Levi. They're doing everything they physically can, in my belief, to be out there, be a part of the team and try to help. But his days are done. And my guess is after the end of the season, he's probably retiring or he's just going to have to accept backup status. As far as the other guys, Houston's not going to be back. CP is not going to be back. But the majority of the rest of the players, I think, have a legitimate chance. Even some of the backups who've been hurt, like Nelson, he's got to be about ready to come back, if not back. So we should be as good as we're going to be the rest of the year. I'll say that. Michael, good morning, Lions faithful. How about them Eagles? Yeah, I was really hoping they'd drop it, but it is what it is. You got Seattle to lose, and you get to control your own fate, at least all the way to the number 2 seed. All right, Ryan, if Lions only get to 10 wins, is that good enough for the division champs or playoffs? Ooh. Division champs, I think, as long as you get 2 of those wins against Minnesota, yeah, because that puts you into 8. You're going to have basically 9th win because you got the tiebreaker over Minnesota. And obviously you win the division, you're in the playoffs. We'll just see what shakes out. But if they only get 10 wins, which means 4 more the rest of the way, yeah, 2 of those 4 wins better come against the Vikings. All right, Mr. Scotty, what do you got? Good morning, everyone. Finally, I'm up to watch the show live. Let's go, Lions. Lions from Cereal City. So Battle Creek, know it well, man. Know it well. I used to, back in the day, I used to coach at Battle Creek Penfield. Some great kids there. I've had some great runs. I got to number 3 in the state when I coached there. So, yeah, we had some good times there. And they've had some great sports teams, as you're probably aware, over the years out there. I'm talking high school level and stuff there. Phil, Jennifer is a peach, Dan. Sweet lady. Yeah. Seems like it. Yeah. Oh, you're talking my Jennifer. Yeah, she is, man. She's my ride or die. She's always there with me, thick or thin. So yes, she is. All right, Anthony, Flint, Michigan. Okay. All right. I know it well. Yeah. Gone over there many times coaching for either college and high school over the years. Jay Breezy, those Vikings are going to be a tough out. Yeah, I would agree with you. And we've been talking about it all morning, man. They're sticking around. The best thing that can happen really to the Lions, and don't mean anything against Minnesota, but if Minnesota could lose, like I said, 2 of the next 3 games, that would give Detroit a lot more breathing room. Obviously, probably wrap up the division for Detroit if that happens. But you never know. Mile marker, one pride, 100% agree. 9 drinks. Are you having a drink from the beach? That'd be my question to you. Deerfield Beach, Florida. Enjoy it, man. All right, Michael, who, if any, do we dread seeing in the playoffs? I would say probably the worst matchup for us right now is probably Philadelphia. Trying to go through the list here. I mean, you get to the playoffs, those teams are all there for a reason. If you get the number 1 seed, whoever you're facing first is probably a decent matchup. Detroit gets the number 2 seed, hosts the playoff, home playoff game. You look at who they would face. So potentially Commanders or Minnesota. Those would be some decent matchups for us. Not ever going to say a team's a win. I hate that jazz to death where you do the schedule thing. Oh, we're going to win this game. We're going to win this game, because that just sets you up for failure. And I'll give you an example of it. I gave my first, the team I'm coaching this winter, I gave them the first setup of our scouting report, I guess you could say, of the team we are going to face in the first week of the season. And this is 2 months out or whatever it is, a month out or whatever, but you get the idea. And someone were like, oh man, we got this. And I shut that jazz down. I was like, don't you ever dare disrespect an opponent by saying you got him before you play him. There's 2 seconds left. You're up, 50 points, whatever. You can say, hey, good game to them then. But you play until that clock reads all zeros. And if you don't, I will beat your butt. So anyways, so yeah, I would say let's not count wins before we get them. Eduardo, what do we got? At this point, we can only lose AFC games because I don't see Philly losing in the NFC. Yeah, and you're 100% right. The conference record is going to probably be a potential factor for some of the tiebreakers if it comes down to that. Who's your 7 NFC teams that make the playoffs? I think you got to go Philly. Well, Philly, Detroit. Then who we got on the other side? Probably 49ers, so that's 3. Right now, I'd probably say Dallas, so that's 4. Seattle, 5. I'm going to probably say the Saints, 6. Ooh, after that, man, it might end up being Minnesota. They're probably got a better chance than the Commanders at this point. We'll see what shakes out. I mean, half the season left, so a lot can change. Man Bear, Dude Crew, what's up? And what's up to you? Hopefully you're having a good one. Hey, Fletch lives, man. Good morning. Hate this time change. Yeah. Are Seattle bums, or should we be concerned later on matchup? Seattle, hey, man, they had the same problem we did. Seattle's got some real good parts. They've got some deficiencies as well. They were equally, I didn't watch the game, so I couldn't tell you really schematics or anything like that. But they're also showing that Baltimore's no joke. I'd like to say we would have a better game against Seattle, but to Seattle's credit, some of their strengths, especially on offense, really hit areas of weakness for us. You got to get pressure on Geno, and they've got some legitimate receivers that that can cause problems for us. So we get to them, they're going to have to try to do some things a little differently to generate a different outcome. Yeah, obviously, we're talking about an overtime loss, but yeah, I mean, we'll get to that, I guess, when we get to it. All right, Phil. Row, oh boy, is a gardening thing. Yep. Okay. It might be, man. I'm just not privy to it. So good one there, Phil. Anthony, how long are they going to give JMO? I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones is here. I gotta hope they're not giving up on him yet, because you guys have heard me talk about it. I still think this is his rookie year, but he's got to keep evolving and developing. I wouldn't, I think we talked about yesterday morning. I wouldn't make it all of his routes just deep shots though, because that's going to slow down his development too. You got to treat him like a receiver, man. You got to have him, run all the patterns, negotiate route trees, how to beat bump coverage, release sideline, release, middle, how to put that foot in the ground and switch directions. All that stuff comes into play. And if you're not exposing it to him, you're actually hurting him. So see what happens, man. Maybe they brought in Donovan Peoples-Jones because they are going to give up on him. I don't, that's the part I don't know. I would just say I would really hope not. We'll see though. All right, Fletch, oh boy, boy, I'm gonna kill it. So I'm just gonna say Florida. Hope you're having a good one. Sorry, man. Michael, Min Kudo, if it when could it their schedule isn't all that tough. It's in their hands. Yeah, Michael. Yeah, I get your point about Minnesota. They could do it. Yeah. Their schedule is pretty favorable. It's just if they still had Kirk Cousins, I would say this: there's a high likelihood they only drop one or two more games. Dobbs had a phenomenal game yesterday, and maybe he does it the rest of the season. We'll see. I would just say law of averages. I'm expecting they're probably going to lose 3 or 4 games the rest of the way, but that probably still gets them a chance at the playoffs. I just think it drops them out of contention for the NFC North. Could be wrong though. Phil, Green Halo is a dulo. Dulo, yeah, I agree, man. I like the Halo. Fletch lives. We gotta get Chargers just to keep my sanity. Yeah, and hey. It's going to be, I get it'll be one of the perceived remaining hard games on the schedule, but I would also say this: you've got, don't hold me to it, 8 games left in the season? Try to go, each game is the playoff game, try to win it, and we'll see where that shakes out. Eduardo, Chargers have one of the worst passing Ds. Got to take advantage. Yeah, and I would say from you and I are on the same point with that I don't think they really get after the quarterback particularly great. We'll see what they come up with. If they do something new that we haven't seen, catch us off guard. We should be fully healthy at the receiver room and tight end room. I'm thinking we'll have a good game. I'll also say this: Vegas probably knows more than anybody on the planet, and they got it as a 1-point game. So we'll see. But I get home field usually counts for a couple points. Silver Surfer, I guess I love to say I said so, but how about Keaton Mitchell, halfback Ravens? Yeah, and he's looked great, man. I mean, there's him and I'm trying to remember the other kid's name that's in the league, like a 5th-round pick that has looked really good. But hey, we got Gibbs. I'm gonna go with it, man. I mean, he's looking pretty decent. And good morning to you, Silver Surfer. All right, Fletch needed Philly to lose that game. Darn it. Yeah, I think we're all probably hoping on that, and then probably Minnesota too. But it is what it is. Phil, Dobbs looks like an alien. I mean, he's just got very light eyebrows, so it's hard to even see him. So he does have a unique look, man. I don't know if you guys ever seen the show Barry on HBO. It's about a hitman that becomes an actor. But it's funny as heck. There's one guy on it. I can't remember the character's name now, but he looks a lot like Dobbs. So if you've seen the show, you probably know what I'm talking about. If not, you can look it up. All right, Jay Mommy, it was nice seeing Seattle get the loss. Yeah, I think that was one of the things that really helped Detroit because they do have the tiebreaker over us, so we need them to fall behind us for a multitude of reasons. Seahawks and Cowboys are likely wild cards. NFC South isn't relevant. I agree there. Eagles look like the number 1 seed, and we are number 2. Eagles, Lions, 49ers, and Cowboys. NFC Final 4. Lions face the Eagles on the road. That would be tough. It would not be an ideal environment for us, but if that's how it plays out, that's how it plays out. But one thing at a time. You got to get to the NFC North, and you got to get that win. All right. Michael, everybody in the NFL is playing best football, second halo, especially in hunt teams. They're all pros. I feel people forget that. Yeah. And they're all privy to their situation. They all have pride. They all want to go out and get wins, and it's going to be a dogfight. I don't foresee us in a situation, especially with Minnesota staying relevant, just taking any kind of games off or having games at the end of the year where you're saying, hey, we're going to rest our starters for a half or whatever, because I don't think we'll be in that situation. I think whether it's just to keep Minnesota off base, we win the North, or for playoff seeding, we're probably having to play every game until the end of the year. Like it's a must win, I should say. Ed, Mr. Ed, Dan, how does our kicking game match up against the division? Punter, I think we're fine. I mean, we've got one of the best punters, in my opinion, in the NFL. Riley Patterson, he's not bad. I get he doesn't have a cannon leg, but okay, he missed the one field goal from 25 yards or whatever it was against the Raiders, but he is a very accurate kicker, especially if you're talking 47 yards and below, somewhere in that range. Above that, he's probably got to be indoors to hit from 50. We'll see what happens. I mean, I don't think you're going to be able to go out and get anybody to replace him, though. That's going to be an upgrade. You've got some teams already on their second kicker, so you cut Patterson, he won't last very long. All right, TS. Don't feel too bad about the Ravens' loss now. Yeah, it shouldn't. They're going to dominate some teams, and say what you want about them. I get they had a shaky start to the year, but I also think some of that could be because you're putting in new offensive schemes, etc. Sometimes it takes teams a little bit longer. Just don't say that to Josh Dobbs, because he made it work real quick. All right, J Mommy, didn't the Ravens only score one touchdown against the Lions in the second half? Could be. I'd have to go back and look, to be fair. I just don't remember offhand. But could that be they were pulling off the dogs? I don't know, man. I'd have to go back and watch. But whatever it is, let's move on and say, hey, Ravens did us a solid. Hopefully they can do us a few more the rest of the year. Max, dude, take a day off. It's not really my nature, man. I enjoy all my jobs. I do them. Just how I'm wired, man. I tell everybody I work 8 days a week, and there's probably a level of truth to that. Lorraine, what do you got? Ravens scored 10 points second half. Yep. Phil, Dan never sleeps. That's what the do does. Yeah. So it's just, I think part of it is when you're a coach, especially when you make it up to the college or professional level, there's no such thing as a day off. You're always doing something, and you do that long enough. In my case, this would be my 34th season, 20 plus either at the college or professional level. Just at some point it just becomes your norm. And I can tell you this, when I sit around and don't have something to do, I don't enjoy that, man. It's not me at this point in my life. All right, Michael, I'd like to see our young QB this year, if we can lock up the division and one seed is out of reach. Some possibility. Maybe it happens. I just am thinking it's probably going to be a race for the division fairly deep in the season. Maybe it's done by the last week or 2 weeks left in the season, but I'm thinking all those games are going to matter either like you're saying, seeding or the division. Phil, what do you got? Do the OG energy drink. You're right about that, man. Did you guys know the true story? Original Mountain Dew, there is a one chemical difference between that and World War I flamethrower fluid. Just a little tidbit and a history lesson for you there today. All right, Phil, red shirt year for Hooker. Yeah, I'd agree. DS, I agree. The Lions have never had the luxury to take the best player available in the draft and in places where we find a way to use them. Love what Holmes has done. Yeah, it's really hard to find fault in anything he's doing. I mean, at least in the draft. I get some of the free agent pickups haven't worked. I think a lot of that's just because of injuries to him, et cetera. But I would say this, whether it's the draft, free agency, I'm hoping we're nearing the end of the need of signing or drafting injured players. I'm just not a fan of it, man. So, all right, Max, Hook's going to come in after Ravens knock Gio. Could be. Yeah, could be. Hook, yeah, I agree with that. Phil, first round is not always the best players. No, it's not, man. And you'll find throughout the draft history, there's a lot of guys who fall. What was the running back from Denver when they won the Super Bowl? Trell Davis or something like that. Dude was like a 5th, 6th round pick, and he was a Hall of Famer. And I think everybody knows the Brady story, but there's tons of other guys that fit that description. Sometimes, I mean, I enjoy scouting, but I can also tell you it's not exact science. A lot of it's just best guess based on the scenarios when you see them. So see what shakes out. Max, Goff out and win Super Bowl. Yeah, if we could happen. Agree. Yeah, a lot of things are kind of favoring Detroit, but they're going to have to overcome some hurdles, going to have to prove themselves. And that's also kind of my point with I hope Minnesota doesn't overtake us, obviously, but I do hope they keep pressure on us to where we face them. Both of those games at the end of the year are pseudo playoff games. Just again, get everybody more familiar with it. You've got a younger guy, a lot of guys and coaches on the staff who've never been through it. Make those games as important as possible. So everybody has to get used to making decisions under stress and duress and coming up with the right answers in those critical moments. You do that, the longer you do it, the more your body does become somewhat immune to it, and it's just not as impactful as it would have been otherwise. All right, TS, what do you got? Also, what do you think about Hooker going forward? We'll see. I mean, I haven't seen anything on him this year. I don't think he's really going to do much. Maybe at some point they get him on the field if, like a couple of you guys have said, if it's happened later in the year where, we've got the seating locked up or the division locked up or whatever it is, where maybe they give him an active roster spot just so he's getting some snaps on the field with people. But I gotta imagine most of this year is just him taking it in from the sidelines, film study, things like that. Just learn those aspects of the game. We'll see what happens though, man. Bergs, let's go Lions 1,000%. Iceman, and 3 people laugh at me when I said Dobbs may be a problem for the Lions when he joined the Vikings because of our issues with mobile quarterbacks. Here's my thought, Iceman. Did they go after him specifically because of that reason? He ran all over the Falcons and threw the game-winning TD. He did. Vikings won 4 in a row. Now with a mobile QB, any concerns? Yeah, I think they were going to go out and get a quarterback. Why not get one that you think gives you a chance against the Lions? I mean, you're pushing, and everything stays even, just where teams are. They don't lose a game the rest of the year until they face the Lions. Then they somehow get 2 wins against the Lions. They win the division in that scenario. So as a coach, man, you don't ever I would hope you never throw in the towel. How about that? Terrence, what do you got? Fellow Battle Creek, Lions can. I agree. And hopefully you're having a good morning, man. Jack, don't worry about other teams. Just be good. Yeah, worry about us first and foremost. You control your own fate. You control your own destiny. Worry about that. You do that, you're going to be fine. TS, also good morning from Sterling Heights. Also up early for college. Love starting the day off with the show. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. Thanks for being a part of Lions Talk Live, man. Detroit East, health, Lions' biggest threat. Yeah, because as you guys all know, man, the wrong players go down. That changes your team in a big hurry. Any Max, any O-line injury updates? Now, we probably won't have any until, like I said, Wednesday or so. Dale, Minnesota should be playing for draft position at this point. Winning only hurts them this season, this season at this point. There's something to be said for that for sure. I think it's just tough selling the coaches and the players on it because they're the ones out there playing for their lives, basically, their contracts, their careers. Even though some of them aren't going to be back next year, they still got to put stuff on tape for other teams to offer them new contracts. So they've got reasons to play. The front office may think differently, but I think you get the point. Grit, people are already overreacting to Dobbs like Jordan Love. Yeah, well, I mean, he had an impressive yesterday. We'll see what he does going forward. I still think they're going to win 1 out of the next 2. They get 1 out of the next 3. If they get 2 out of the next 3, then they are really kind of sticking around. Brother Ken, Ravens only scored 1 touchdown because they were too tired beating the heck out of the Lions. There could be a level of truth to that. All right, Phil, really like your coaching style, Dan. Poise and sportsmanship, something lacking in coaches these days. Yeah, man, it's just, I mean, if you get players to buy into what you're doing and you've got some sound, principles, schemes, you should be fairly successful. I mean, I've been pretty lucky in my career. I've never had a losing season. I don't know what it's like, so I've never had to go to that level. we've won somewhere around 90% of those games during my career. And a lot of that just because you do get players to buy in. Now, if you're a workaholic and you study other teams to death, you figure out their tendencies, you take away their strengths and force them to play your type of game. You can do some things, but I've never been one for trying to cross certain lines, I guess you could say, to try to get a win. I'm not going to go there. I want to win that bad, I guess. All right, Bergs. Lions worried about Lions. Why not us? Let's go Lions. I agree. Focus on yourselves. The other stuff's nice. You can pay attention to it, but don't get stressed out if another team wins, because that starts taking away your focus from what you do. Donkey Kong. Vikings want the division title. Yeah, why wouldn't they, man? I mean, they're pros. They want to win it. They don't. I just don't. I don't think anybody wants to lose. Maybe I'm wrong. Front offices, I get they do that stuff. Coaches and players, not so much. J. Mommy, Vikings won in the last minute. The Lions had them wrapped up in the second half. Yep, they did. So, it is what it is. Great Lakes State guy. Good morning. I was thinking last night watching Swift, all we could talk about was how he was injured all the time. Now we're watching Montgomery sit. Still think it was a good fit. I think we've talked about on the show before. I believe Swift made his fate in Detroit when the coaching staff really thought he was physically good enough to go against Dallas last year. And he said, I need another week. There's probably some truth, I would think, to a certain degree. The fact he got traded, he's got a chip in his shoulder, and it's a contract year. Don't ever, at the pro level, don't ever think that doesn't come into play. Guys know they're always playing for the next contract, especially running backs. And I feel bad for that position because not a ton of them really get paid huge on that second deal. So Swift's got to do everything he can to give teams to believe in him. Maybe say, the Detroit thing, your injuries, maybe that was something to do with Detroit, because when he was at Philly, he did great. Now he gets the new contract, whether it's Philly or Timbuktu, I don't know. And he sits out some games again. People are going to be like, think we see something. But if it doesn't happen again, then maybe it was something in Detroit. Maybe he was just didn't put on enough mass, enough muscle. Maybe it's just, unlucky, whatever it is. But they made the decision. I'm going to say this. Gibbs seems to be working out. Montgomery, it's a position that everybody's going to get hurt. Swift may get hurt at some point, but he may try to fight it off again just to get that new contract. All right, 9 drinks. Atlanta, question mark. Need one from that conference. Yeah, and I think the Saints have a shot, but I could be totally wrong, man. Phil, what do you got? Ravens just beat people up. Yeah, I think they're built 100% the way MCDC and Brad Holmes want to build this team. Physical, put you through a war every time you play us. And I think, hey, there ain't nothing wrong with that. I'd rather be the one hitting than getting hit, but that's just me. Brother Ken, Ravens only scored 1 touchdown in the fourth quarter because they were tired beating the heck out of the Lions. I feel like I just read that one. Did I drop back or something like that? I don't know. Anyways, I agree. Max, what's the key to being a morning person? Because it's very difficult for me. Man, it used to be back in the day. I didn't go to sleep till like 1 or 2, sometimes 3 in the morning. And then I'd wake up at like 8 or 9 in the morning just, to start work. But as I've gotten older, I now go to bed at 11 and I wake up at 4, sometimes 5 o'clock. It's just, I guess as we all get older, things change a little bit. Mountain Dew probably doesn't hurt though. Donkey Kong, Max, coffee, and a mindset. Yeah, I would agree with that, man. All right, Dan, what do you got? Swift's only playing like this because it's a contract time for him. Yeah, I think there's probably a level of truth to that, man. Eduardo, I think a fully healthy San Fran might be more issues for us than Philly. Philly's passing D is not all that. You could be right, man. I just think the more I'm watching with some things, if you can take away 2 players in that offense from the passing attack, and that's no easy task, then Brock Purdy does struggle a little bit. And I haven't really watched a ton of film on him to give you guys a fair breakdown of tendencies or anything like that. I'll worry about that when the day comes that we face him. But just from little stuff here and there, I would say teams are starting to find some chinks in his armor. And it happens to everybody over time. He's going to have to evolve beyond that. And he probably will. but he's going to have to go through a few speed bumps to get there. Lynn Insider, why do I never hear anyone say Goff is part of the problem with the JMO connection problems? His average pass depth is 20 yards. If you take away the passes behind the line of scrimmage, Goff's deep passes not good. I will say this to you. I think you're partially right with this, in that some of his passes to Jameson Williams, if he lays them out further or farther down the field where JMO can just run under him, then his lack of hands or whatever, where he just kind of cradles it in like a punt or a kickoff, are probably less of a factor. He does sometimes get off with that, so I get your thoughts. The other part is we don't see that a ton with other players. So is it JMO's speed is just so superior, which probably some truth to it, that it throws off Goff's timing on those passes? Or B, is it something between the route tree that you and I aren't privy to, that Goff's expecting him to be here or there when he throws, and Jameson just is off with it? So that's the part I can't answer, because the only people who really can answer that are on the team. You and I don't know those route stuff. But I do think, if Goff throws it further a few times, even though I've talked about this before against Tampa Bay, that's an underthrown ball. It's just Williams makes the adjustment to catch it. There's a couple of them that come to mind. I want to say one of them is against the Ravens, where he gets the pass interference that wasn't called. If Goff leads him with that pass, there's no pass interference. The dude wasn't catching him. So you do have some points there. All right, Michael, I believe those top teams, Eagles, we match up great against. I think scrappy Dallas hurt us, but a New York team that is in hunt are scary depending on how hot they get in December. Yeah, a lot of things will come down to your health and where your trend is going into the playoffs. Some teams trending great. Some teams, just go on losing streaks, lose their confidence, and the season kind of ends in a dud. When what do you got? Duberg, the capital of Lions country. I like that, man. 9 drinks, 12 games left, Super Bowl bound. There we go. I like it. Jay, could the Lions tempt Ben Johnson to stay one more year if they offer him assistant head coach? Is that really even a promotion, or not seeing as much of a thing? In some sports, I'll use basketball as an example. You'll try to elevate somebody to associate head coach, and they get a wee bit of a boost in the pay scale. I can only tell you from my standpoint. I can't tell you from Ben Johnson's. Mine, you get the opportunity to be a head coach, go take it, because there's zero guarantees you ever get it again. He's established himself as an OC. He flames out as a head coach. He can get other OC jobs afterwards. That wouldn't be a problem. All right, guys, it's almost an hour in. We're just at 58 minutes. You probably have guessed it. It's dew 30 to me. I got to go get the morning dew and get to work, all that kind of stuff. So I hope you all have a great one. If I hear some breaking news or anything like that, I'll hop on as fast as I can. Otherwise, you all have a great day, and I'll see you on the next Lions Talk Live. Take care, all.